Welcome to The Explainer. We live in an age that's all about tech, right? Well, today we're going to show you how a resource from the 19th century, oil, is still the secret force running the entire world.
All right, let's just jump right in with a fact that might completely blow your mind about the global economy. Whatever you think you know about big tech's dominance, just set that aside for a second.
So, who do you think is the most profitable company on the planet? It's not some flashy tech giant, it's Saudi Aramco. And the scale here is it's absolutely staggering. Last year, they made more in profit than Apple and Microsoft combined. Yeah, you heard that right. Combined.
And look, this isn't some one-off thing happening in the Middle East. This is a global rule. You go to Brazil, the state-owned Petrobras is on top. In China, forget Huawei or Alibaba. Two state-owned oil firms bring in the most cash. And even right here in the US, the home of Silicon Valley, oil giants like Exxon and Chevron have higher revenues than Google, Ford, and General Motors.
So how is this even possible? Well, it's because oil is, it's in everything. I'm not just talking about the gasoline in your car. Those tires on your brand new electric vehicle, yep, made from oil. The plastic in your phone, that's oil too. Cosmetics, perfumes, the asphalt on the roads, it's all petroleum. And it's the fuel that powers literally all of global shipping. It's the true lifeblood of the world economy and, maybe most importantly, the key resource for modern warfare. Okay, so to really understand this kind of power, we have to go back, way back, to the guy who literally wrote the playbook on how to do this. So who's the richest person in history? You might think of today's billionaires, right? Musk, Bezos, Arnault. Their fortunes are, of course, insane, but not one of them even comes close to the wealthiest person who ever lived. If we adjust for inflation, that title goes to John D. Rockefeller. We're talking about a fortune worth over $340 billion today. But honestly, even that number doesn't tell the whole story. At his peak, Rockefeller personally controlled almost 3% of the entire U.S. economy. Think about that. One man. And here's the crazy part. Rockefeller's genius wasn't that he discovered oil or invented some new tech. Nope. His brilliance was in creating a system. He built the world's first vertically integrated company, Standard Oil. What does that mean? It means he controlled every single step, owning the wells, owning the refineries and the trains, and owning the distribution. He owned the whole game from start to finish. Now, this model that Rockefeller created, it was so powerful that it basically became the global standard. But you can probably guess what happened next. When everyone started playing by his rules, it kicked off this huge global battle for control of black gold. So eventually, the US government had to step in and break up Standard Oil. But its pieces didn't just fade away. Oh no, they reformed into what became known as the Seven Sisters, this powerful cartel of American and British oil companies. And by the early 70s, they had an absolute stranglehold on the market, controlling an insane 85% of the world's oil reserves. Yeah, that kind of dominance was never going to last. The countries that actually had the oil were getting really tired of being paid pennies for their most precious resource. So, in 1960, they fought back. They formed OPEC. And this all exploded in 1973 with the oil crisis, when Arab nations just cut off the supply to the West. Prices went through the roof. And in response, the big oil-consuming countries created their own club, the International Energy Agency, to try and fight back. And this sets up the fundamental tension that still defines the oil market today. It's basically a giant tug of war. On one side of the rope, you have the sellers, OPEC and its friends like Russia, what we call OPEC+. Their goal? Simple, keep prices high and stable. And on the other side, you have the buyers, the IEA. Their goal? The complete opposite, keep prices low and stable. It's a constant battle. So how does this tug of war play out in the modern world? Well, the oil market is now so interconnected, so tangled up, that trying to cut out just one major player has shown us just how deep this web really goes. Let's take the recent sanctions on Russian oil. You'd think that would stop the flow, right? Not even close. Instead, it created this massive shadow fleet. We're talking about operators buying up old, rusty tankers, turning off their tracking systems to go completely dark, transferring oil from one ship to another in the middle of the ocean. They even fake their GPS coordinates. It's like a spy movie on the high seas. So what's the end result? The oil doesn't stop flowing, it just gets rerouted. Look at this. The oil that used to go to Europe and the US is now heading to places like India and China. But here, and this is the best part, those countries then refine it into gasoline and diesel and sell it right back to the West. You can't make this stuff up. Oil always finds a way. Which brings us to a huge question for any country lucky enough or unlucky enough to have oil. Is it a curse that just leads to dependency, or is it a catalyst for building a powerful nation? And the answer, it turns out, is it really depends on what you do with it. Just look at a few examples. For countries like the US and Russia, oil was the fuel, literally, for their industrial growth. For a place like Saudi Arabia, oil didn't just build the modern state, it pretty much is the state. But then you have a country like Norway, which did something totally different. They took their oil money and poured it into the world's biggest sovereign wealth fund. It's basically a giant savings account for the entire country, making sure they're set for the future long after the oil is gone. And you know, this quote from Rockefeller himself really just nails it. He knew that the oil itself was only part of the story. The real power, the lasting power, comes from the system you build around it. It's never about just having the resource. It's about the strategy. It's about what you do with it. And that really leaves us with the big question for our world today, doesn't it? What is oil? Is it the lifeblood of our global economy, the thing that keeps everything moving? Or is it our most addictive drug, something we know has massive consequences, but we just can't seem to quit? The scariest part? It's probably both.